This month's book is The Invitation by Araya. And our first Sunday of the month, we read the entire poem, didn't we? It was a call. It was an invitation for us to step into a greater way of being. Today's reading is from page 118. Araya says, "What sustains us when all else falls away are the things that make waiting and staying open to life possible. I have been lucky enough to find 3 such things in my life: my practices of prayer and meditation, writing, and spending time with nature. These activities enrich my life when I have hope and faith, and they give me a way to bear the waiting. What makes them practices is that I do them regularly, whether I feel like it or not." A practice of any kind is best cultivated in times when things are going well. This can be difficult. Sometimes any regular activity beyond daily teeth brushing seems a curtailment of personal freedom. But a practice, a regularly repeated and at least minimally structured way of connecting with our sense of the mystery of which we are a part, gives us a way to open to that which sustains us when everything falls away. I began my practice very simply. I said a small prayer each morning to greet the day. Eventually, I began to do an hour of daily meditation and prayer. There is almost always some resistance. The voice that says, "I'm too tired, too busy, too ill to do it, or healthy enough not to need it." And I do it anyway. It requires not so much a heroic discipline as a deep commitment to life, a willingness to dedicate our lives to something larger than ourselves. I want to know what your life is dedicated to. What do you love more than your own happiness or your own pain? Each day, as I do my practice, I dedicate my small life to being fully here, to learning how to love well. Today's affirmation. I'll read it through once and then I'll invite you to stand as you are able and join me. I am perfectly aligned in God's orderly universe, ready and able to bless and be a blessing. My mind is in order, focused, and clear. My vision is set, and I move forward each day in faith and joy, knowing my good is guaranteed. Please join me. I am perfectly aligned in God's orderly universe, ready and able to bless and be a blessing. My mind is in order, focused, and clear. My vision is set, and I move forward each day in faith and joy, knowing my good is guaranteed. You know, we're so blessed, aren't we? Sometimes it might be a little difficult for us to remember we're blessed. Do you ever complain? If you're complaining, you've forgotten that you're blessed, right? So we live in an interesting universe. We live in a universe in which a life of order and harmony is really our divine gift. And yet somehow we find ourselves not living a life of order and harmony. Do you have complete order and harmony in every area of your life? I know I do. But I thought maybe there might be 1 or 2 people here this morning who don't. And so I want to speak to you. You know I'm messing with you. I know that I'm speaking to all of us because, our whole theme this month is about creating a life of order, harmony, and balance. How do we create that for our individual lives, and how do we create that for our spiritual center? You may not know this. We are beginning the fundamental work on the strategic plan for Unity of Bellevue for the next 5 to 15 to 20 years. Isn't that exciting? It would be a great idea for us to know where we're going, right? So we're beginning to lay out that path. We're in the beginning stages of that right now. Now, I don't know about you, but I want a life of order and harmony for our center, yes? So let's anchor ourselves in that concept right here and right now, because we will only have life and order in our, or harmony and order in our center if we have harmony and order in our individual lives. Yes? Because what is life? It is an outpicturing of consciousness. Do you remember that part? What is consciousness? It is cause in our lives. An orderly and balanced mind must be in place for us to experience an orderly and balanced life. What's happening in your mind? Order and balance? Or are you squirrel? Duh, this, that. Worry, worry, worry. Complain, complain, complain. Yes? This seems to be like the affliction of our culture, but what I want to invite you today to do is to lift yourself out of that into a greater way of being by cultivating an orderly and balanced mind. Now, 2 weeks ago on our first Sunday of this theme, we talked about what is order. What does that mean? Order is simply a pattern. It's simply things being in a pattern that works, a pattern that is life-giving. Order is things being neat and tidy, right? And we talked about your kitchen drawer, and we talked about your garage. We talked about my garage. And how do we bring more order into our physical environment so that we can experience more order in the world? And when we talked about disorder or chaos, any chaos in anybody's life? This might take the form of, sometimes chaos shows up as just like frantic activity, things all over the place. Sometimes it shows up as illness, as stress, all kinds of different ways that chaos can show up in our lives. But what we talked about is this notion that order and chaos are actually the same thing, right? We require a little bit of chaos in the world to evolve us and to move us along. And yet, we want to be advancing the notion of divine order in our lives, aligning with the divine pattern so that we can have a richer and more balanced and fuller and more peaceful and joy-filled experience of life. Are you down for that? I am. And so how do we cultivate this balance between, we live in a physical world where there is a certain amount of chaos, a certain amount of randomness. And so how do we take that and integrate that into our daily lives so that we're using it as a growth opportunity, not a way for us to get stuck? So today we get to talk about what is our role in creating that. An orderly and balanced life requires an orderly and balanced mind. We must train our consciousness to be orderly and balanced. Oof! It's called, are you ready for this word? I know how much we love this word. It's called mental discipline. How many of you love the word discipline? It's actually a good thing. A little discipline goes a long ways. It's really a good thing for us to anchor ourselves in the idea of, as Araya was telling us in the reading, whether I feel like it or not. I brush my teeth whether I feel like it or not. I do my daily prayer whether I feel like it or not. I practice daily aligning with the divine pattern of life, even when the divine pattern of life is kind of pissing me off. But if I become a surrendered instrument of the divine, I can begin to make sense of the pattern that might seem chaotic to me at times. So we must develop mental discipline. How do we do that? How do we learn to do anything, you guys? Hello. That's how we learn to do anything. We practice. And what happens is as we practice, we get better at it. Yes? And I don't know about you, but I used to when I was a kid and I was taking piano lessons, I hated it that I made mistakes. Yes? It ruined my whole experience of playing the piano. What I didn't understand as a child is that the mistakes are a learning opportunity, right? And I didn't have that awareness that mistakes are part of the process. And so what I want to invite you into is this notion that practice, which is defined as, are you ready? This is right out of the dictionary. Repeated performance or systematic exercise for the purpose of acquiring skill or proficiency. Did you catch that second half? For the purpose of acquiring So when I start practicing, I may or may not have much skill or proficiency. But as I practice, as I allow myself to be imperfect, as I allow myself to make mistakes, as I don't use my mistakes to beat myself up and take me backwards, as I allow them to be learning and evolving opportunities for me, these things that might feel like, what was that word again? Chaos. I allow them to advance me and move me forward in life. I begin to experience more and more harmony, order, balance. I am acquiring the skill of an orderly and balanced mind, of managing my mind, and then I have a different experience in the world. How you doing so far? So let me ask you a few things. Why do we say an affirmation here every Sunday? Practice. Why do you have your little card in your bulletin that you take home, and I invite you to put it on your dashboard or on your mirror, in your bathroom or whatever? Why do I encourage you to do that? Practice. Why do we take a class? Practice. See, life is just practicing. That's it. It's kind of ironic because we don't really know what we're practicing for. When I was a kid doing my piano lessons, I was practicing for the next recital, right? There was an end goal in mind. I'm not really sure in my life right now that there's a really clear, is there a recital? I don't know. Maybe there's a great cosmic recital in the sky, whenever it is that I leave this planet, and I'm practicing for it. I don't know. But I am practicing living life more effectively for some reason. And you know what? Why not? I'm just going to be happier if I do that. And so I say my daily affirmations and my daily prayers. I practice every day so that I might acquire skill and proficiency. A key spiritual truth is that it is not enough to talk the talk. The language of a spiritual life is very easy to learn, right? I can speak the language. I bet you can too. We've all been around long enough. We've read enough books. We've taken enough classes. We can speak the language. But talking the talk is not enough. We have to walk the walk. We have to walk the spiritual path with conscious intention and love, self-love and love for others, and a clarity about why we're here. We're here to learn and grow and evolve. We're practicing for that great recital in the sky. There's an interesting verse in the New Testament about this. It says, we will be known by our fruits. If there's an orange on the branch, it's probably an orange tree, right? If there's a tomato on the branch, it's probably a tomato plant, right? The plant is known by its fruit. We are known by the fruits of our lives. If your life is full of chaos and confusion and pain and sorrow, that's your fruit. That's your orange. And I don't want to make the pain and the chaos and the sorrow wrong, because that is what evolves us, right? So if you're having that experience of life, you're not wrong, you're not bad. Are you learning from it? If you are walking the walk, you are learning from it. If you are talking the talk and not walking the walk, you're generating more chaos and confusion. Because an orderly and balanced life is the product of an orderly and balanced mind. I love that song you guys did, I Am That I Am. I look again. I'm just not seeing it right yet. When something's going sideways in my life, and I'm feeling frustrated or angry or hurt or whatever it is I might be feeling, I have to stop and remember, I am that I am. The Infinite One lives and moves and breathes as me, has its being as me. I must not be seeing this right yet. Do you remember 2 weeks ago, I'm the little tiny piece of broccoli looking at the huge stalk of broccoli and I can't understand it yet. All we must do is stop, breathe, do our prayer, do our spiritual practice even when we don't feel like it. So, what I've given you so far is why it's important to practice, right? Are you convinced? You feel like that I made a pretty good case? That spiritual practice is important for you to engage in your life? If I haven't made a pretty good case, then don't do it. See what happens. Let me know how that goes. So I was thinking, all right, so I've made a bit of a case. And then I was thinking, when I was a kid and they were teaching me how to, remember in school they were teaching you how to write a newspaper article. And what are the things? They say it's who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are the things you have to address in your newspaper, a good newspaper article. I don't know if they still teach it like that, but when I was in grade school, that's how they taught it to us. So we understand why now. Let's talk about who, what, when, where, and how. Ready? Who should practice? Anyone who wants to have a greater experience of life, right? Do you want more harmony in your life? More joy, more love, more peace, more abundance? You should practice. Boom! That's pretty easy, isn't it? What to practice? See, this is an important piece. We have to make sure we're practicing the right things, right? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I practice by worrying about things. I'm practicing what might go wrong. I'm practicing how things might be difficult. Have you ever practiced an argument in your head? We have to make sure we're practicing the right things. And I found this awesome quote. And it just said it was a violin teacher who said this. And I don't know what particular violin teacher who said this, but I love it. This person said, "Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes habit." If you keep practicing new techniques without consulting someone who knows what the hell he's doing, you're going to wind up with a big bag of bad habits and a fiddle in the attic. So we have to practice the right things. We have to practice truth. What? What is truth? So that's kind of an interesting one for us sometimes, isn't it? We have to practice the truth. We don't have to, if we practice what's hard, life is going to be hard. If we practice the argument, we're going to be in an argument. We have to practice the spiritual truth of love and joy and peace and harmony. Now, what is truth? You know what? You guys are going to hear about this a lot from me. Because what we're told in the Bible is that the truth will set us free. What? You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So what is truth? Truth is that which sets you free. Reverend Marcia Sutton calls it, she says it this way, she says, freedom is the proof of truth. As you contemplate a principle, she says, does it make you feel more constricted or more free? More constricted or more free? When I think about love and joy and peace and harmony and balance, all of those things, I begin to feel more free. So we must practice that which has freedom ingrained in it, that which makes us feel more free. One of our other teachers puts it this way. He says, we must practice that which is life-affirming and harms no one. See, if it harms anybody, there's not freedom in it, right? That which is life-affirming and harms no one. That's what we have to practice every day, whether we feel like it or not. Are you clear on what? Let's talk about when. When should we practice? How about always? How about every day? Some of you know I spent the last 6 days at Unity Village, which was quite an experience for me. I really loved it. And what was happening there for me was I was being evaluated there. I had pretty much 5 solid days of being evaluated to determine whether it was okay in the eyes of Unity Worldwide Ministries for me to serve as your minister. And it was quite an interesting experience because I've been a minister for a long time. I haven't been evaluated in a long time. And I had a couple of panels. I had I had to give a message, and then I had to answer a bunch of questions. And you'll be glad to know I passed the psych eval. The psych eval was the weirdest thing in the world, I'm here to tell you. But they tell me I'm very stable, so there you go. I was like, oh, we've got you fooled. No. It really was a great experience, and I'm so happy to be part of it. And it completely reinforced for me this idea that the time to practice is now. Because the other thing that I learned is that in addition to the, 14 years of studies I've already put in toward ministerial school, I have to do another 16 or 18 classes to continue as your minister. Like, really? Oh my gosh. And you know what? As there's a part of me, like a very human part of me that's like, wait a minute, blah, 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 But then, wait a minute. Practice. I get to practice. And I get to do that in a really structured and beautiful and supportive way that has a lovely end goal to it. I get to be your minister. The recital is awesome. I get to practice for that. And it's a lovely feeling to me to know that, I get to go study with some great ministers and take some great classes and do some wonderful things. And bring more order and balance into my life by the power of practice. I stopped and I saw it rightly. Instead of, oh my God, 18 classes, are you kidding me? That's going to take so much time. It's easy to go there, isn't it? But if we stop and see things rightly, we understand that the universe really isn't a conspiracy for our good, that indeed I am called to practice, no kidding, always, all the time. And I found another great, and I don't know why it's always violinists who say these great things, but there's a Spanish violinist. He died, actually, I looked him up because I had never heard of him. His name was Pablo de Sarasate. I think I'm pronouncing that close to correctly. And he died in the early 1900s. But he said at one point, he said, for 37 years, I've practiced 14 hours a day, and now they call me a genius. Right? None of us, as we practice, of course, we become geniuses. Right? So I'm just going to become even more of a genius than I already am. What? How cool is that? So when to practice is all the time. The other thing I want to say about when to practice is for your dedicated spiritual practice, your prayer and your meditation, when to practice is at a definite time every day. You set that time, figure out what works for you in your life and your schedule. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's in the evening, maybe it's both, maybe it's during your lunch break. But there is a definite time when your mind, your heart, and your body know, I get to practice now. This is my time to settle into the infinite nature of spirit. Now, part of this is, so how long do I practice? Did you hear what Oriah said in the book? She said, she does her prayer and meditation now for about an hour a day. Well, here's an interesting theory for you to think about. We talk a lot in our teaching about giving 10% back to God, don't we? We talk about tithing 10% of our income to the source of our spiritual good. We talk about prayer, meditation, giving, study, and service as our 5 kind of main spiritual practices, right? How many hours are in a day? 24 hours in a day. Wow, what's 10% of 24 hours? 2.4 hours a day. That would be a dedicated spiritual practice, wouldn't it? I invite you to consider how much time you currently spend in spiritual practice every day, and to kind of think about, am I really dedicated? Am I really making this the most important thing in my life? Am I really putting God first? Because what is the text? Seek first the kingdom, all else is added unto us. Now, I don't spend 2.4 hours a day in spiritual practice, but I'm going to start thinking about jacking it up a little bit. And I invite you to do the same. So when to practice is all the time, every day, every moment. Engage your spiritual discipline in every situation. And where do we practice? Where we are. Right where we are. A situation or a condition comes up, I engage my mental discipline. I take a deep breath. I anchor again in spirit. I remember, order and balance is the theme of my life. Harmony and love is who I am. And I now anchor in that, no matter where I am or what's happening around me. And the other piece I would say about where to practice is in your daily dedicated spiritual practice, when you are actually sitting down to pray and meditate, do it in a definite place. Like, this is where I practice. This is the chair in which I practice. Because when you sit in that chair, your body will take the cues from that chair. Does that make sense? When you sit in that space, your mind will take the cues from that space. Because this is where you are having a dedicated experience of the divine every single day. No kidding. So where to practice is everywhere, and where to practice your daily dedicated practice is in a definite and particular place. How you doing? All right. How to practice. Ready? There is a famous shoemaker who has a motto that is so appropriate here. What is it? Just do it. If I had a nickel for every time somebody told me, I don't know how to meditate, just sit down and ask the universe to show you how. Just sit down, take a deep breath, and anchor in the consciousness of God to the best of your ability, right? You'll make mistakes. You'll have stray thoughts. You might fall asleep. And you go, oh, dang, okay, I don't want to do that again. So maybe I'd better have something around me that lifts the energy a little bit so I don't fall asleep next time. Just do it. Take a class in prayer and meditation. Start a group of people who want to pray and meditate too. Learn from them. Just do it. How to practice is to practice. And get a teacher. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a fiddle in the attic. Get a teacher. Someone who is further along the spiritual practice path than you and is willing to support you. And trust me, they're everywhere. I have a teacher. We should all have a teacher. Yes? If you don't have a teacher, get one. You don't know how to get a teacher? Ask the universe to show you your teacher. Who's my teacher? Oh, dang, that's right. How come I didn't know that? I get it now. That's my teacher. Get a community to practice in, like this one, or some other one that resonates with you and opens your heart and your mind. Just do it. This is how we practice. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Love yourself anyway. Open your heart to learn and grow. Embody a consciousness of order and balance, and allow that to unfold in your life. We are known by our fruits. If you want to know what you believe, how your mind works, look at your life. How you doing? You ready to practice? Let's practice together. We practice in a number of ways here together every Sunday. We practice with our music. We practice with our affirmation. At the end of this message, there's always a meditation, and then there's always a chant, isn't there? And someone in this community was complaining to me this morning about our music, saying, I'm getting all these earworms. And that's the idea. I want you to walk out of here today with this little affirmation in your mind, the divine pattern of life. There's a divine pattern of life. I am remembering who I am. Get up on your feet, share the love with everybody you meet. That's the point of our music program, isn't it? It's practice. So let's turn within and we'll have a little bit of a guided meditation and then we'll chant together, I am remembering who I am. So I invite you, if you wish, to close your eyes and to take the sacred breath with me. Breathing in and breathing out. The divine pattern of life. Right where we are, ordering our bodies. As you breathe, begin to recognize that the air enters your lungs, it enters your veins and your vessels. It flows throughout your body, nourishing your body, feeding your body, an endless cycle of reception and release, the divine activity of God in you, the breath. And so as you take another breath, you allow your shoulders to drop. You simply allow your joints to soften. Your jaw relaxes. And with each breath, you relax more and more fully into this moment, into this place. And getting quiet with any feelings, any thoughts, any conditions or circumstances of your life, simply allowing whatever might be coming to mind to come to mind. And breathing again. You release any attachment to things being a certain way, any habits of thought. And begin to feel your heart and your mind open to the awareness of something greater than you are. And with each breath, you become more and more aware of this greater something, this universal presence. And you recognize it as love. Infinite love bubbling up from deep within you. And you begin to feel your mind ease as your heart fills. And you simply bless any thoughts that come to mind and you release them into the nothingness from which they came. And you put your attention on this point in time. And now on this point in time, and simply allow yourself to be at peace. In this moment, a divine moment. In this breath, a divine breath. As we join together in knowing, I am remembering who I am.
I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am.
And so we remember, knowing the spiritual truth, God is good, all is well. One thing is happening, and it is happening right where we are. We are fully unified with that presence, with that power, and we simply carry that with us forward from this building this day, knowing that we have been transformed by the renewing of our minds. We have been transformed by remembering who we are. And so I close this message with a grateful heart, calling it good and very, very good. And so it is. Amen.